welcome to the Transformational Podcast, a conversation between brothers about practical ways faith is impacting our lives. We invite you to join us on this journey as we are learning to let faith transform the way we live. We are glad you are with us today and look forward to sharing our journey with you. Now let's jump in.
1 John 4, 7 and 8.
Beloved, let us love one another.
Love is of God. Everyone who loveth is born of God, and knoweth God. He who loveth not God, for God is love.
Oh my goodness. Right. And welcome to the Transformational Podcast. We're gonna add that in to the start of this one. I think it'd be funny, Chris. Do you think we should do it?
Okay, fine. I don't know.
All right, yeah, I think we should do it. Okay. I think it would be fun. Hey, you're with the Marine from Maryland. You're with the pastor from Paradise. We do have a little bit of fun before we kick this off. And every now and then, if I feel it, Chris, I just let's put that in the podcast. Let's add that in there.
We'll just see what happens.
I'll see how it comes in post-production. Hey, if you're listening right now and you're like, what's they talking about? Chris and I were, it means I did cut it out.
Yeah.
But Chris and
I were... we were just singing a song from our childhood. It was like Salty the Songbook or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it was. Salty the Songbook. It was based off a verse that, isn't it in this chapter that we're working in? Is that where it is?
Well, it is 11, in the chapter. No, well, it's chapter 4. It's the next chapter, but we're going to look at 3. Yep.
Yeah.
So anyway, Rob, before we get into that, though, tell me about your week. What happened this week?
Oh man!
Which, by the way, we're really just catching up. So go ahead, tell me what happened.
Yeah, well, let me tell you what happened this week, Chris.
Well, first of all, last weekend you ran in the marathon. You did it.
I did. I ran in the marathon. I ran 3 hours and 48 minutes for that marathon.
We are the champions, my friend.
It was Chris. It was really amazing. There were something like 30 to 40,000 people there. Wow. There was a little bit of transportation glitches here and there with the DC's metro system, but overall the crowd was awesome. The crowd was kind. The crowd was fun, even when the transportation system was really honestly just not going well. People weren't freaking out. They were trying to get out of the metro, because what was happening is there were so many people in the metro, Chris. Yeah. Trains would pull up with people on the metro train that couldn't get off, and so the train would neither unload or load, and that train would move on. So
they were just stuck.
It was mass mayhem. We were totally stuck. We went down probably to the first platform. We didn't. And it's massive people. It's literally wall-to-wall people all the way out to the track. It was kind of dangerous, frankly.
Wow. Yeah.
But
dude,
I looked at Hillary. Hillary looked at me, and we're like, nope, time to get out of here. And so we snuck out. And
you know what? That's never happened in the metro here at Paradise, Texas. We've never had that problem.
What's y'all's metro like? Is it like a tractor with some hay? What are we talking here?
It's a hayride, bro.
It's a hayride.
Yeah.
No, so that happened on Sunday. It was really fun. They gave you some pretty cool, post-race, I don't want to say gifts because you paid for them technically, but there's
felt like
fleece.
A gift at that point.
It felt like a gift. Yeah, it did. The one thing they gave that was really cool is a fleece-lined poncho, kind of like the almost a little bit like the football players wear on the sidelines, but not ginormous.
Yeah.
Where it doesn't have sleeves, but it's fleece lined. Oh man, Chris, that thing is amazing. It's so nice. It's just
sounds like something I would sweat a lot in, but it sounds like on those days, right? Those special days that y'all have up there that we have 2 of total in 10 years down here. But hey,
we've had a few of those this week too. But you know what I didn't do this week, Chris? You know what I didn't do?
What's that?
I didn't run.
You didn't run?
I didn't run.
No.
As a matter of fact, first day was sore. Second day soreness is real. It's very real.
Yeah.
Chris, I was coming. I went up to go tell on Monday night, so it's the day after the race, and I was doing pretty good. I walked up the stairs. That's fine. I was good. Hey, dinner's ready. I was telling one of the kiddos, and as I went to go walk back down the stairs, I couldn't go one foot after the other down forward. And I went down one step. I'm like, ooh, I don't think I can do this. So I turned around and I'm starting to go down the stairs backwards. And my kiddo comes around the corner. What are you doing? I was like, I can't go on the stairs forward anymore. I was like, I physically hurt too much. And so that was fun. Hey, you know what else we did this week, which was really kind of funny with the work? We did a Halloween party at the work. And
did y'all dress up as soldiers?
I dressed up as a Marine. No, I didn't tell any. I didn't tell anybody.
That was hilarious.
It was good. That was well. I didn't tell anybody what my uniform was, or not my uniform, my costume was.
Yeah.
But they did a costume party or costume contest or whatever, and I tend to not wear a costume throughout the day because I would have to wear it with my actual uniform, and that's a little weird.
Mm-hmm.
But I did get a costume. I got a peanut butter and jelly costume that morning on the way there, and it's like, one person's the peanut butter bread, the other one's the jelly. And what I did is I went into my deputy, who's an extreme introvert, and I was like, hey, something's going to happen today and you're going to say yes. Whatever happens, you have to say yes. And he's like, what? And I was like, you just have to say yes. It's good for everybody. You're just going to have to say yes. And he looks at me, he's like, okay. It's like, you got to say yes. And he goes, yes. Okay. All right, good. We're good. So anyway, I showed up a little bit late to the all hands where everybody was, and I came in my peanut butter bread costume, and I was like, peanut butter jelly time. I'm starting yelling, I'm having a good time.
Yeah.
And then someone's like, hey, where's the jelly? I had somebody queued up to ask me that. And I go, you're right, we're missing the jelly. And I had another friend just hanging outside the door. I was like, bring in the jelly. So he comes walking in with the jelly bread, and you could see my deputy's face. He's just like,
he knew.
Oh, he knew. He knew at that moment what was about to happen.
Oh, yeah.
It was hysterical. He entered into legendary status because he put it on.
Look at you.
Yeah, man, it was hilarious. And then they said, hey, I kept calling it a couple's costume.
That was the introvert's worst nightmare. Way to go.
Oh, it was.
Rob.
No, it was. I absolutely nudged him. And
awesome.
I kept calling it a couple's costume, and everybody's laughing, right? And he just was like, oh my goodness. Well, he came up, I said, hey, we got to get a picture, together, and side by side kind of thing. And as he walks up, I went and gave him a hug and yelled, peanut butter and jelly. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, I think what I yelled. Chris, the phones came out of everywhere. It was like snap, 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 snap. You would have thought we were getting hit by the paparazzi.
That is awesome.
And some people have made some really good, I'll text them to you maybe, but they've made some really good ChatGPT versions of that peanut butter jelly sandwich.
There you
go. Yeah, they've played that. So had a good day, had a good week. That was among, regular work. And, I was telling the team, I was like, the thing I love about our team right now, that at the V22 office is we have a team who knows how to have fun. But I told them, I said, I know that 30 minutes from this moment, as we walk out of here, I'm going to walk around and y'all are going to be back to business because we all support some, Marine airmen or sailors somewhere who counts on us. And I was like, so I like the fact that we can have fun now, but I know like with absolute certainty, 30 minutes from now, I'm going to find you working on the things that support those people on the front line. So it was good.
It's business. It's business time. Just
my goodness.
Different song. Anyway.
All right. Hey, so what happened in your week, Chris?
Oh man. A couple things. First of all, I'm going to start where I am today, but then work backwards, okay? Because number one, I'm wearing my Dolphins hat because today the Dolphins took down the number one team.
What?
So last time we played, we took down the number one team.
That's what I remember.
Well, then there was a new number one, and it wasn't us because we had 2 losses or 3 losses. 3 losses.
But now you're inflicting losses on everybody.
We took down the number one team. So now we have beat every team in the league. But Robert, it was a game, man. We were down fun. 8 at half. We come back, and we went back went back. We were tied up at one point, 14-14. They score. Fun. They go for 2 because you have to go 1 or 2, and they go for 2. They're 22-14. We score. We didn't get the extra point, so we're down 22-20.
Oh man,
dude, we have a minute left in the game. We drive the field with 40 seconds left. We throw a bomb to Brock David Hurst.
No way.
Yes.
Yeah.
He scores with less than 40 seconds left to put us up 26-22. And
but that dad moment was sweet.
We didn't get the extra point at that point, but it really didn't matter at that point because they'd already used their timeout. Okay. And so when that play was done, the extra point was done, there was only 8 seconds left on the clock. And so
it's either they run it in from whatever y'all do for a
they
kickoff,
just didn't have
or
time.
yeah,
they didn't have time to get a playoff. And so it was awesome. Next weekend's the playoffs. But dude, here's the deal, man. I'm telling you, this team that I've gotten to coach this year probably was the like they're all great. But as far as talent goes, this is not my highest talent team. It's probably my lowest talent team at the beginning of the year. Now, at the end of the year, dude, they're on par with any team I've coached. They've done phenomenal.
Yeah.
But just a lot of new people to the game. Yeah, huge growth. So, and it's because, dude, they show up to practice and they work hard every week. Like, it's not hard to coach these guys in practice.
Awesome.
They work hard. So, it's pretty fun. And I always talk to them about life, how that's life. Like, hey, actually at the end of the game, I was like, guys, here's the deal. It came down to the end. We were behind, but y'all kept being consistent with y'all's effort and consistent with your attitude, and your consistency will pay off. That's true in life. There's going to be times that you feel like you're behind the ball. You just show up and be consistent.
Keep working.
And the reality is that's true in our faith life too. And so I actually talk about faith a lot. I talk about,
100%, man. Yeah.
Because it's a league where I share my faith almost every week. So anyway, it was great. It was a fun day. My adrenaline's still pumping from it because it was just, and the coach that I was coaching, this coach and I are the only two coaches who've coached every year since we began this league.
Okay.
And every year our teams duel it out. And this is our last year for both of us to have kids in the league. And he's I don't know if I'll coach or not next year. He's not. He's like, man, I'm done after this. Has been a fun ride. But it was just, I was like, how fitting. Yeah. How fitting to see this come down to the wire like this. So
are they going to be in the playoffs? So are y'all going to get one more look at them?
Yeah, probably. It depends on how this. We're going to be the 3 seed. The 2 above us only have 2 losses. We have 3 losses. So only the top 4 go. So we'll play one of the other 2 teams that we just beat.
Okay.
And so we'll have to beat them again. And then one of the top 2 teams will play the number 4 seed. And then if we win, we play in the championship. If we lose, we play for 3rd. So we'll see how it goes. But man, it's been a fun season.
Yeah, it's fun. And like you said,
wrap it up.
You really got to focus on what matters. And I tell my kids, since this all the time, it's like, you got to put in the work.
Yeah.
You got to put in the work.
Yeah. So that was this today. And I say that because I'm still wearing my Dolphins hat. So if anyone from the Dolphins organization would like to reach out to a coach who's turned a team around, just you know how to reach me. All right.
I think I remember you saying last week that you're happy with where God has you right now. I think that's what I remember you saying.
I'm just saying, like, I don't mind contract work,
Okay, a little consulting on the side.
Just give me a call. I can come down for a game.
It only takes 6 figures to get you there.
If you have a night game, you could probably pick me up from church and get me there in your private Dolphins jet. Yeah. I could probably get there in time to help you out.
Yeah.
So
I think they should.
And then last weekend, dude, I was a little nervous about my Aggies. Wasn't real sure how they're going to do in Death Valley.
Okay, dude, I watched the first half.
Game, right?
I watched the first half and I was like, "Oh, Aggies are
shot themselves in the foot." Right?
Yeah, Aggies gonna have a hard time. And then I had the marathon, so I went to bed because I'm like, I can't watch this.
Yeah.
But then
here's
I woke
the deal,
up.
though.
You guys
think about the
blew
first half. Before we shot ourselves in the foot, we had all the momentum. And it was like, ooh, we don't know what to do with this. Why don't y'all have it? And we gave it to them.
You kept giving the ball back to them. You're like, here, let me have it. You didn't get the ball. Momentum. Hang on. Make sure you have the ball.
Self-inflicted wounds. And so came out the second half and played with our hair on fire. And dude, on offense and defense, they look like the real deal. Here's the thing. That is what's fun about this team, is that when they play like they can play, man, they're fun to watch. Now, I will say, like, that's the reality of college football. That's the reality of any sport, is that you have to show up and play as a team and be consistent. So,
you know what's funny, Chris? I was thinking about this even today when I was looking at if the Aggies were playing today, their bye week. I was looking, and they're 3rd right now. They're ranked 3rd. They're 7-0. 7-0, right? Maybe, I think.
They're
anyway,
8-0.
8-0.
Which,
whatever they are.
By the time, just by the way, I think that under Brian Kelly at night at Death Valley, they were 22-1, and they said that to Elko at the press conference. He goes 22-2.
I like that. That's good.
He gave them one.
I like that. Now, this is what I was thinking is you and Barrett always have this conversation at the beginning of the season. And Barrett's very, he's like, it's this year, Dad. It's this year.
It's our
this
year.
And then we always joke about on the podcast, like, yeah, that's what we always think. But then, they find a way. Well, hey, man, they're not looking bad right now.
No, they've positioned themselves well. Now
they're not looking bad. They're putting in the hard work.
Get a bye week, and then they've got another hard game. They got to go on the road against a pretty decent Missouri team that is proven to be a formidable foe for many, and so need to get out there and play. And here's the deal: show up and be consistent and play as a team. Yeah. But okay, so there's that. I'll say we had an exec retreat this week where basically, my guys I have a lot on my list that I want us to get done. And dude, Monday, we literally worked from breakfast till dinner, like through dinner. And they were spent. And then Tuesday we got up and we worked till 4 because I had to get back to coach football. But spent.
spent.
But it was fun. It was a good week. Now, I want to go back to the showing up deal, like every week. Bro, you've realized there is a spiritual movement happening here in America. There are people coming to know Jesus. It's happening on the college campuses and the next generation. Robert, we have had consistently over 400 students at our Wednesday night student event or student services. There's a spiritual stirring happening in churches. We baptized 28 last weekend or something like that. Okay. And like we're getting to celebrate what God's doing and see God do mighty things. Here's why I say that is because, hey, as a church, not just as Grace Fellowship, as a church, as followers of Jesus,
body of believers,
dude, we've got to recognize the momentum that God is giving us and say, hey, let's continue to work together. And I'm not saying this is happening. This is just me looking and saying, hey, God's up to something. What do we need to do to continue to work together to see the momentum happen and carry forward? So it was just a little thought I had there. So
no, you get to see it a lot right now. I think after the podcast last week, I was telling you about how someone even like Joe Rogan is, he's not a Christ follower, so let me start there. But the number of people who keep coming into his podcast that used to be like full on pagan, who are now Christ followers, who are telling him about what God's doing in their life, whether it's, Russell Brand or it's, Justin Bieber or it's, you name the celebrity or even what you're seeing in the college campuses where people are turning to Christ because there is nothing else for them anywhere else. There's a movement, and you can even see it there in what I would call, liberal, maybe not even liberal, but mainstream, thought process. I won't say mainstream media because that's not really what I'm talking about, but in the mainstream of thought and idea market. There we go. Marketplace. Yeah. So it's pretty cool what God's doing. I think he's given us an opportunity. I think so too. I was just listening to one of our previous podcasts and we talked about making the most of of every opportunity. And I think that podcast couldn't be any more appropriate and timely than it is right now. Because there is a lot of opportunity right now.
Yeah.
Hey, where'd you want to go today? I think we have
so this past week there was several places I started my journal, but the one I just felt like we need to jump to or look at today.
The thing I would tell you is Chris and I both had many places in our journals to jump back to this week where God's just talking to us as we're walking through our daily devotions, and that gets back to our daily time with Him. That gets back to the point of showing up.
Be consistent,
being consistent. So anyway, you had a place where I think I like it. I want to go there. Let's do it.
Yeah, even if you feel like you're behind the curve, show up, be consistent. It'll pay off. So
yeah, absolutely.
So this week I was reading 1 John 3. Not John, but 1 John 3, and 1 through 10. It was part of the reading that I do. I have 4 places I read, but it says, "See how very much our Father loves us, for He calls us His children, and that is what we are. But the people who belong to this world don't recognize that we are God's children because they don't know Him." Now, here He's creating two different
camps,
right? Classifications. Those who know
appropriately.
Yeah. Those who know God and are his children, and those who don't know him. And now the know here, Rob, give me 1 second. But in fact, while I pull this up, he talks about, for he calls us his children, right?
Yep.
And I love that part, because I think sometimes we think, well, think about this. God doesn't call us Christian. He calls us his, right? He calls us his children. But here's the thing. Egno, which is to know, it's not, they don't know, they don't understand. It's not, they don't know that there is a God, or it's that they have not had come to an understanding of who he really is. Does that make sense? In other words, it's not like they go, I've never heard the word God, or I don't understand what they're talking about. What it's saying is they have not experienced him in such a way that they know him. Right.
Yeah, it's the difference in, like, I know, for example, I know several folks inside the military, and what I mean is I know them. Like, I know their name, I know who they are, they're in my chain of command, and so I know who that is, right?
Right.
As a matter of fact, I knew one of the folks who's a 3-star in my chain of command this week, and I know several, right? But I know that person. I finally shook their hand and met them yesterday and got to see them work, in an actual live environment. And I went from knowing them, as in I know who they are, I know a little bit about them, and I know what people tell me about them, to knowing them. I've now experienced them firsthand.
Yeah.
And then as I spend more time with them, right, that's just one experience as I spend more time with them, then, like, your friends, and then eventually your wife, you know them in a different way than you knew them at the beginning.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the kind of, I call it the continuum of no. The continuum of no.
Yeah. Like, how do you know? In what way do you know him?
Exactly.
Right? But I love that he says, he calls us his children, but those who don't recognize us as don't recognize that we're God's children. They don't understand the significance of that. Now, if you've put your faith in Jesus, and I talk about this often, it's not that you enter into a club or you're not getting a new title, you're getting a new family. Like, that's what's so cool about it, is that God didn't just save us for just a friendship type relationship. Yes, we can have that kind of relationship, but he saved us to bring us into his own family. And
could
the
you
good news
say
about
familial knowledge, is that a word you could use for that kind of thing, like familial knowledge of them?
Yeah. It's and so when it comes to this kind of identity, right? Here's what I'm trying to drive home. It is an identity issue, that you have a new identity. And just because others don't see that identity doesn't mean that you're not that. In fact, the reality is you now get to figure out who your identity is based on who God says you are. If you're his children, guess who gets to name you? Your Father. He's the one who gets to give you a name. He's the one who gets to call you something. And so I love it. Just that idea. This is something I wrote down, is just our identity comes from our Father. And then he goes on and says, dear friends, we are already God's children, but he has not yet shown us what we will be like when Christ appears. But we do know that we will be like him, for we will see him as he really is. And all who have this eager expectation, or this eager hope, here's what it will say. Here's what it says. Will keep themselves pure, just as he is pure. When I read that, it was just this idea of, we don't know exactly what we're going to be like, but we do know this. We know who Christ was when he was here. And but then we'll see him as he really is. Because even when he walked the earth, people didn't fully grasp who he really was until he rose from the dead. And so they're going, hey, we won't fully, understand who he is. We won't fully be able to grasp. But here's what we do know: those who have this eager hope, this eager expectation that hey, one day I will be like Christ in his fullness. Which, Robert, that's kind of the Bible word is sanctification, right?
Right. Yep.
It's the process of being made whole, the process of becoming new. He said, he says, well, we don't know exactly what we'll be like, but we know this, we'll be like Christ. And those who have that eager expectation to be like Christ, they are going to keep themselves pure. They're going to pursue purity in their lives. Now, when you think about that, like what comes to mind when you start thinking like, what does it look like to keep yourself pure, to pursue purity in your life? Because I think sometimes we might, get into just myopic view of what it means to be pure, but it's so much more than just this myopic idea, right?
Yeah, I think it is one of those things where I personally believe we like to think about keeping ourselves pure on the things that are easier for us.
Right.
So we don't like that. We kind of like to try to ignore the things that aren't easy for us. And so I think where we get into danger is if we get to the point of thinking that's what we get to be identified by is that purity, right? It's the idea that when we spend time with him, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is. That's what they talk about being when Christ appears, right? Yeah. And the idea being that as we spend more time with him, as we find more ways to kind of like separate ourselves. Like I was reading Ezekiel this morning, and God took Ezekiel to Jerusalem to show them how just horrendously evil the leaders of Israel had become. And you get to see this moment as God takes Ezekiel through the temple from one gate to the next, as you get to see the horrendous acts of the leaders. And then you watch as God's glory, his presence is leaving the temple. It doesn't just leave the temple. He then shows like the next thing, and you see his presence and his glory leave that. And then it goes out to basically Mount of Olives, and it shows his presence and his glory leave that, because as God is walking him through the city, you have all these places of what you're talking about, impurity. In other words, it's just horrible evil. And what it is God leaves. What I think it is a picture of is you go back in reverse, right? If you go the other direction, it is the reason why we have hope in him, and it purifies us. And that's that constantly being made new, being made like him, having those rough edges shaven off. It's the opposite. It's where his presence and his glory and his peace moves in, and then it then transforms us. It transforms us from the inside out. If we focus on our the things like you're talking about, like, oh, I got all these ideas of purity. If I make that my sole focus, then I might be able to be pure, but I'm only focusing on the things that I'm going to say I'm good at, or the things that I feel like, I don't know, maybe feel super bad about. The idea is that they are purifying themselves because they are sitting with him, and he is transforming them from the inside out. It's a transformational faith.
And it really kind of reflects back on what he's saying. We'll be more like Christ. It's going to make us more like Christ. So it's not just, when we think of purity, it's not just, sexual purity. Like for some reason, I feel like that's where our brain goes. The reality is it's purity of speech, purity of thought, purity of behavior, Well, how does that happen? Well, as he makes us more like him. It's not about willpower. It's about the Spirit's power in us that transforms us, that's changing us. But it's in our hope of what's to come, right? It's holding on to, I want to pursue him, and I want to be like him. And so I say that because I think we have our favorite sins to ignore in our own lives. And yet that's what he's saying, is like, man, don't make excuses, and don't dismiss what God would not dismiss. If it's not like the character of Christ, then allow God to deal with that rightly in your heart. And he, when he's talking about keeping yourself pure, it's saying, hey, if it doesn't line up with what God says is true, or the way that Jesus would have lived his life, then it's not for me.
That's right.
I
think if you look at it, Chris, as slow of a sometimes as slow as it is of a decline to find yourself in that same position that Jerusalem found themselves in, or Israel and Judah found themselves in, based on what Ezekiel was writing about, that just horrible, I don't know, depravity of sin and lawlessness. As I was thinking about it, is you mentioned it, right? We think about sexual purity, but we really don't really come into like, whether it's our words or our not emotions, our, the way we interact with other humans. In other words, do we hate or love, that kind of stuff. And to a certain extent, it is a slow decline. It's not an immediate fall off the cliff. And I was actually writing just in my journal this morning as I was kind of bringing Ezekiel and Hebrews all into one little spot, because Hebrews talks about being immature in the faith, and how people who are immature in the faith tend to fall away from their faith that they had, because they didn't actually ever pursue any kind of maturity. They never spent time with God. And I was saying that, I think what I said, and this is that honest assessment I think we all need to do. We just all need to do it all the time. Is I said, in Hebrews, seems to speak to the fact that it accuses the reader of being immature and some even falling away. I said, I can see in my own life how one small decision begets another to sin. And then I wrote, I said, Father, I'm not innocent of this slow decline. Help me to make small decisions to follow you so that I never get near the bigger, I use air quotes in mind, bigger ones. But it's that idea you mentioned even in your game today, right? I'd be willing to bet when, y'all were down in the rest, there were a bunch of small decisions your players made to stay in the game.
Yeah. Yep.
A bunch of small decisions to show up and keep fighting. But it is important. It's important to spend time with the Holy Spirit and not let the small things give you in that slow decline, because I think that's really how it happens. And it's not just in purity of sexual purity. It could be purity of heart, purity of mind, and the rest. Purity of speech, to your point.
So, Robert, I thought about this when I was thinking through this. It's really it's a character trait, right? I think about it like this. If you see my boys, depending on the day, there's a lot of things that you look and go, oh, that they look a lot like their dad. Or when we're together, a lot of people are going, oh my gosh, y'all look a lot like each other, right? Yeah, the reality is that when I'm with Dad, a lot of times they're like, oh, he looks, which is funny because you look more like Dad than I do most of the time. I look a lot like Mom in some ways, but I got shared character traits. But you can look at us and go, oh, they must belong together. Right?
That's right.
They're connected, right? They're right. I think about my own boys. There's certain behaviors that I'm like, oh no, that was me.
Oh yeah,
you have that with your own kids.
Oh yeah. No, I see it. I actually was joking with a friend about it this week, and I was like, yeah, that behavior that drives me nuts. That's totally me. That was me.
Robert, my second one struggles to get out of bed in the morning.
Really? I don't know anybody like that, Chris.
Bro, I'm telling you. I'm talking like, Brock, are you moving? He'll say yes, and yet he's still in the same position that he was.
Was he thinking about what he's going to wear today, Chris? Was he thinking about what he's going to wear today?
I get it. He sits there and he thinks through it.
Hey, y'all, listen. Here's Chris. When we were growing up, we didn't share a room, but my room kind of went through his room to get to somewhere else in the house. And I would go through his room, and he's laying in bed, and it's time to get up. And I drove us to school early on because I was the one who had the driver's license. I was like, Chris, you got to get up. And he's like, I'm thinking about what I'm going to wear. Now, when he says thinking about what he's going to wear, he's like head on the pillow, covers over his head. And I'm like, you're not thinking about anything but the backside of your eyes.
The light was on in the room.
I know, because I turned it on. And so then I come back by and hey, Chris, you got to get up. I'm still thinking about what I'm going to wear. I'm like, oh my goodness. And so we actually had to establish, this is Chris, y'all. Now, it isn't him anymore because he's shaved this area off as he should have, frankly. but we had to establish that you cannot leave until this clock in your car turns to this time, and then you can leave. Whether he's in the car or not, you can leave. Yeah, you remember that?
Yeah, and I will just say, I think I only got left one time. I was pretty good about getting into that. I knew what the parameters were.
Dude, that car was warm. It was at the end of the driveway, and I was waiting for it to click over. I was ready to leave.
I'm telling you, man. I understood the parameters I was working with.
No, but there is a sense of character traits that we do kind of carry on. So here's the deal.
That's really what I see here. He starts with this idea of you're God's children.
That's right.
So why should we keep ourselves pure? Why should we pursue that? Because if we hold on to the expectation, the eager expectation, the hope of who God is making us to be, who we will become, and who
our identity in Him.
Right, our identity is in Him. Yep. Then we should reflect the character traits of our Father. Right?
Yeah.
And it should be seen throughout the family of God. We should be known as the most loving, caring, but also truthful, and I would say even steady, because the high highs and the low lows don't affect us the same way as it affects other people, because we know who's in control, and he's got us, right? God's got our back. Even if we're low and full of lack, God's got our back.
And see, yeah, God's got my back.
Thanks, dude. Dude, that was awesome to watch that one take shape in your
Well,
mind.
because Chris, I was reading verse 4 through 6, which is really kind of a follow on of kind of what we're talking about. It kind of grows it a little bit, but I did hear you talking, and the two words had to process
probably
together.
Need to push on, so go ahead and read us on.
No, this is good. It says, everyone who sins breaks the law. In fact, sin is lawlessness. But you know that he appeared so that he might take our sins away, and in him is no sin. No one who lives in him keeps on sinning. No one who continues to sin has either seen him or known him. And it says, dear children, do not let anyone lead you astray. The one who does what is right is righteous, just as he is righteous. Do we want to keep going? Or do we want to handle that? Okay, yeah. The one who does what is sinful is of the devil, because the devil has been sinning from the beginning. The reason the Son of God appeared was to destroy the devil's works.
Now, here's what I love about this. Here's the deal. It's really about who's calling the shots in your life. If you think you are calling the shots, then really you're just following the deception of the enemy, and it's saying they belong to the devil. And really, there's two kingdoms here, and that's really the picture that's going on: the kingdom of darkness and the kingdom of light. God's kingdom, where he brings us in as his own children, or we are slaves in the kingdom of darkness that ultimately leads to destruction. And he does it by convincing us, well, look, you can call the shots in this kingdom of darkness. It's not true. He's leading you. He's deceiving you into destruction. Now, when he says everyone who sins breaking God's law, and anyone who continues to live in him will not sin, as the way verse 6 says it for me, but anyone who keeps on sinning does not know him or understand who he is. Really, it's the idea of you're unwilling to surrender an area of sin of your life to him, then you've never truly surrendered your life to him.
Yeah.
If you're saying, God, I want you to save me, but I don't want to give you my sin. I want to continue to live this way. I'm unwilling to yield this part of my life. Then you've never actually truly put your faith in Jesus. And that's actually a hard thing to swallow, because we are often raised in a deal of, it's not, and once again, it is not something we do. It's not an act, right?
Can we flesh that out though?
Grace by faith in Jesus. What is faith? Well, here's the deal. I think of like high ropes course, Robert.
Right.
Remember, like faith, I can tell you everything I know about those ropes that hold you up when you're jumping off a pamper pole, and you got a harness on. I can tell you everything about
jumping
the
off the top of the telephone pole that's 40 feet up. Yep.
But the truth is, I can know everything about it and tell you that I believe it can hold me up. It is only when I jump out and I let the rope do what the rope does, and I let the harness do what the harness was made to do, that I've actually put my faith in any of it. It is not faith until you trust the full weight of your life to it. And in the same way, it is not faith in Jesus. If you think about it, sin was putting faith in our own way instead of God's way.
Yeah.
And if we're unwilling, oh man, full surrender, right? No stops. Right? Full surrender. If we're unwilling, then we haven't come. And really, we see picture of this with Jesus, right? The rich young ruler comes to Jesus. What does it take to receive? He said, well, follow the commands. He said, I've done all this. He said, okay, tell you what, go and sell all your possessions, give to the poor. Right. Goes away sad because he was very rich. What was he telling us there? Is that his God was his wealth, and it was the area of his life he was unwilling to surrender to God.
Yeah, and I think the piece that you hit on really early on is it's who's calling the shots.
Yeah,
it's who's calling the shots. If God's not calling the shots, then it's you or the devil who's working through you. And the idea here is, no one who lives in him keeps on sinning. The way I see that is, the Holy Spirit reveals in ourselves certain things that he's like, hey, I need you to dial back. Like, you need to address this sin in your life, right? And you mentioned it with the rich young ruler. Hey, rich young ruler, this is a sin in your life. Now, if he had said, oh, I see it, and turned that sin in his life over. In other words, that belief, his faith, frankly, in his wealth, which is really what he had. He had a faith in his wealth. He felt secure from his wealth, and he had said, "Okay, I feel secure in you, Lord." Pushed that aside and said, "All right, I'm going to align my heart to Him." That would have been different. Now, does that mean he wouldn't have stumbled back into feeling like he might, need the money, because now he's kind of got that internal struggle because he's struggled for his entire life to see wealth as his security, as a secure blanket? No, he might struggle with that till he sees Jesus. He may struggle with that till he's with Him. The difference here is no one who lives in Him keeps on sinning. Is that idea of when God reveals something to you that you're like, and I think Christ followers, we don't necessarily. I think if you're a true Christ follower, what ends up happening is God might reveal something to you, and you may be like, "Oh man, that's really hard." And sometimes we like look away and we struggle over it, and we try, and it's kind of in the early stages of being sanctified. In other words, being made more like Him, and we stumble a lot as we get that right. But we take action to move away from it. We start taking action to move away from it. And sometimes we get pulled back in, and sometimes we get away. And it's this like give and take. What he's saying is, if you keep living in sin, in other words, if you're like, yeah, I'm not doing that, and I don't care what your word says, and I don't care what you say, I'm doing what I want. And I'll give you all this other stuff, but not a chance you're getting this. And to your point, if that's where you're at, if that's where you find yourself, I would suggest that you might want to jump with somebody and say, hey, I need to talk about my salvation. I need to talk about my salvation, because if there's an area of your life that you cannot foresee or even potentially imagine surrendering to what God's asking you to do, and not even having a struggle over it, it's just like a sheer, pure rebellion on that area, I think you need to talk to somebody who knows Jesus. Y'all need to work that out. You need to pray about it and see what God reveals to you. In other words, you need to spend some time with Him. Yeah. But I don't want folks to walk away thinking, well, man, I sin all the time. Yeah, I do too. I mean, I'm not perfect, but it's not, I don't.
It's not perfection. It is direction, though.
That's what I'm saying.
If you're unwilling to change a direction, then that's probably an indication that you need to maybe do a heart check and a life check.
Yeah. So anyway, Chris, we are long today,
okay,
but that's
let's wrap it up with this real quick. Do it. It says, those who have been born into God's family don't make a practice of sinning because God's life is in them, right? So they can't keep on sinning because they are children of God. He ties it all together right here, saying, hey, look, the reality is that when you belong to the family, you should behave like the family.
That's right.
So now we can tell who are children of God and who are children of the devil, and anyone who does not live righteously does not. And I love this because he brings this in suddenly, and does not love other believers, does not belong to God. Now, I love that last part because here he does. I feel like he wraps it up in a bow.
Yeah, he does.
He's going, look, if you belong to God, then you should behave like you're a part of the family. And not only that, you should love those who belong to the family too. That you can't belong to the family and not love other believers. And I think this funny because it's bringing it back full circle. When we talk about the momentum that we're seeing here in the church today.
Yeah.
Like this is a picture of how we continue to pursue what God's telling us to do. We focus on us. And it's not looking at everybody else and becoming the police of everybody else. It's looking at ourselves and saying, all right, is there any behavior that doesn't align with what it looks like to belong to the family?
Yeah.
And if so, I'm willing to put that at the feet of the Lord and say, God, I need you to begin to change that in me.
Yeah, it is a familial knowledge of the Lord, and the way you get that familial knowledge of the Lord is the same way that you get it with anyone else. You go and you spend time with them. You spend time with them in the morning. You spend time with them throughout the afternoon. Talk about pray without ceasing. That's not like a close my eyes kind of thing. It's just a conversation with somebody. And so it's always turning our heart and our mind back to Him, so that we hang around them so much. In this case, we hang around Jesus so much, then we start to become more like Him. We discover our identity in Him and who He says we are, not who Satan says we are, not who maybe our condemning self says we are, but who He says we are. And when we become like him, we'll know we're more like him because we are able to have love for others and love for the family that he's brought us into. We are a part of the family of God. And so I think this was really good, Chris. It does make me laugh. And I'll probably now, if you're listening, you're probably like, he did leave the song in because it just feels right, Chris. It just feels right. That'll probably be at the beginning. Yeah. Hey, why don't you wrap us as we finish up here?
Hey, listen, I think it just comes down to that. When you belong to the family of God, it will change the way you behave and you will love other believers.
Amen.
Thank you for taking time to join us today. Our prayer is that you are encouraged in your own journey as you let faith transform the way you live. If you enjoyed hanging with us today, let us know by leaving us a 5-star review and sharing our podcast with others. We look forward to discussing what God is doing in our lives in our next episode.